Her az. Toylarına şıra kandan olup ketdi. Ciddileşip oturmsa?
Hakikaten meldik xutularning hammasi yig'ildi degina. Aşağıda birleşip gözlerini oyuntup nimlan damdi. Hadis qilmagan to'yni singlis qipti deb.
To'g'onlarni ko'tarib nega mangdingiz?
Ha, to'qollarni keng mangan.
Men to'sabda shifojonglar bordu.
Nasıl toxtağına? Sen Fransa'ya bir jigit boz bulandı ya. Qarab bakın emesan resimde verdi. Bu Nicat, Anvar'ın dostu.
Ana qarаңlar, tushib tom qilmishim. Kelsingiz. O'xshitib etib berma.
Baba yigit yo'qdi to'y olamda.
Biz imom bilan deyish bo'ldik.
Chet elga chiqqandan keyin avlod bizning kimligimizni davomlashtirsiz emasmi?
Büşügünge boğuldum Allay balam, allay balam, allay.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Carolyn Talks. This is the podcast / YouTube channel where I, your host, Carolyn Hines, film culture critic and journalist, speak to film creatives around the world about their work, the industry, and what inspires them. And today I am very happy to be joined by filmmaker Mukaddas Mijit to talk about her film Nikah, which is premiering at the 2024 Toronto Real Asian International Film Festival. And I love this film. It's not a feature film. It's just about 55 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's not a short film, but it's not a feature-length film, which I think works perfectly for this story. And it's about this young lady, Dilber, who's an Uyghur Muslim living in the northwestern regions of China in the Xinjiang province. And I think this is my first film that I'm seeing about Uyghur Muslims. There is one film that I know that was made about the people from this region called the Trail from Xinjiang by filmmaker Dongnan Chen. So I didn't get to see all of that film, but I did get to see parts of it because I previously interviewed her earlier this year. And so I was kind of thrilled to be able to watch a film about these people. And like Dilber, she's 27 years old and she's being pressured to get married. You know, once young women hit a certain age, their parents are like, when are you going to get married? When are you going to get children? You know, like despite whatever educational background they have. And so like so much of this is relatable to, I think, any young woman around the world. But what centers this story is like there's this underlying sense of anxiety, you know, of the unknown of what could potentially happen. Because since 2017, the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, has been essentially disappearing people from the Uyghur community, and they've been putting them in what they call re-education camps, but they actually would be correctly called concentration camps. And it's about this theme of being surveilled, you know, but surveilled by the state, but I think also by the family, but in very different ways. So I'm very happy to talk to Mukaddas about this very unique and I think very important and informative film. Thank you for joining me, Mukaddas.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a
Thank you.
pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this because, as I said, this is technically only the second film that I've ever seen about the Uyghur people, and I think it's so interesting that it's a film talking about young women, you know, about the things that we have to experience in daily lives. So talk to me about that. Talk to me about first centering the film there, about making it about a young woman, 27 years old, who watches her sister get married, and then she's like, wait, it's my turn next.
Yeah. I think that's not only one Uyghur woman's story. It's, I mean, as you said, it resonates with lots of different women, actually from all over the world. I live in France, and also sometimes I would also like hear some similar stories of women getting pressured by their families, etc. Actually, the first idea of this film came quite early on. It's partially based on my own experience because I was like nearly 30, and then I was finishing up my PhD in France, and my parents started to get nervous and then ask me to, like, maybe it's time for you to find someone. My parents have been like very supportive of me, like for my long years of studying, but I think that that pressure came from the community. So they also felt pressured by the community, and then they would ask me to go on date with people and then, like eventually find someone. And also, I was traveling back and forth to the region at that time as a researcher, because I did my PhD on ethnomusicology. So I did my field trip quite often. So people would meet me like even in the street, like the first sentence, of course, like, "Hi, how are you?" And then the second one is, "Did you married yet?" Like, so I found it really, really really invasive, but at the same time fascinating, because I'm like, why all these people are so interested in my personal life? This is my personal choice. So at that point, I was making a documentary or ethnographic films, and I wanted to make my first fiction film, and I knew that this will be the subject, and also I knew that talking about the social pressure on women would be really my story, and it would like tell the story of my friends and people surrounding me, and by doing like by working on this kind of story, I would like to raise this awareness of like, please leave the woman alone, and I knew that it will be only expressed through fiction, not documentary, because it would be really complicated to bring Uyghur women to talk about these issues. So yeah, to answer your question, actually, this is like something really personal to me as well.
Yeah, I'm from the Caribbean. I'm from Barbados, and it's the same way. Like, I moved here with my twin sister in 2009, and the first time that I went back home, I think it was around 2012 or 2011. And one of the first things people asked me when they saw me that knew me, "So, married yet? Fiance, boyfriend, no kids?" And I'd be like, "You haven't seen me in like 4 years, and this is the first thing you're gonna ask me." And that is, as you said, like, I had the exact same experience. And there's something, no matter what religion, no matter what culture, no matter what country or ethnicity you're from, these are just parts of like particular cultures, especially those where where family is valued as a goal, and like you said, like you're 30, you're a university student, you're getting all these degrees, you're studying this, and they're like, "Okay, you've done it now, so you've done this thing for you. Now let's do this thing for us. Let's do this thing for the family, for the culture, and like that is kind of how they see women getting families, as as like as a something to do, not for yourself, but for the culture. So and that comes across in the film, like that's like when Dilber and her sister Rena, when she's getting married and she's preparing to leave, the mother makes the speech, and like the speech is basically like, "You're off now to," instead of saying, "You're off to enjoy the world now, you're off to become this man's wife and to start a family." And I thought it was so interesting because, again, doesn't matter where you are. That's just something that's expected of women. And talk to me about you studied ethnomusicology, and then you were getting your family to tell you these things, about what to expect, what they expect of you. And then you decided, "No, I'm not even going to do that. I'm also not really going to go for ethnomusicology. I'm actually going to do filmmaking." Talk to me about that choice, because that's such an interesting choice to make. You were just like, "I'm going to actually do this completely different things from from both what I studied, but also what my parents and my family expect of me."
Yeah, I'm still in the ethnomusicology field. I'm working on some academic projects about culture, music, staging of music and dance, and how that gets to used by the Chinese government's propaganda machine, etc. So I'm still in the academia, but as someone who came a little bit later in the Western countries, which gets a PhD degrees, and it's like, especially in France, it's really complicated to get a permanent job in academia, and it requires like so much effort. And then I thought like I will, like I felt anxiety, like really trying to get into that competition and that kind of world. So instead, I really enjoyed filmmaking. Actually, I enjoyed in like get my knowledge or my findings through research in different ways. Like making a film, even making a fiction film is also like very, in my case, very research based. So I do what I do, and all the things, all the artistic projects that I do is always like backed up with readings and research materials or data, etc. So I think it's kind of interesting to be in the academia and also be in the artistic world. I mean, there's like so much richness if we can like join these two worlds together, and then there's so much to share. And I really enjoy doing like both of them actually. Yeah.
Yeah, and in watching and now hearing you talking, and in watching the film, Nikah, like your love of music and dance comes through in the film. Like, it's not necessarily we call it a significant part of the film, but it's a significant part of who Dilber is as a character. Like when she's feeling frustrated, when she's like trying to figure out what to do with her family, she goes into her bedroom and she kind of escapes into dance, like she begins to feel the music, and that's how she's able to express herself. And I think that's such a beautiful way to really get to know who this character is, because she talks about, like, there's a scene where she's on the phone talking with her friend who's in Paris, and she talks about missing dancing, with her friend, her partner. She's like, oh, we recorded this performance, and like, what's going to happen to this now? And for the Uyghur people, like, so much of their culture is essentially being forced away from them, by the CCP. And part of that is the dance, is the music. But the film Nikah, the title has to do with a ceremony that takes place in Uyghur traditional wedding ceremonies. And the way how these ceremonies take place, they are dances too, So like she's afraid of this dance, of this part of her culture also being stripped away from her. Talked about the music and the dance and how important it is to this film, and how important it is to Dilber and to Uyghur culture.
Yeah, dance and also ceremonies and music has a very, I mean, it's not music, how we use music in this film and how we use dance is not to dictate how you're supposed to feel, but it's to bring you to immerse in this feeling, in this culture. That's why the first nikah, after the first nikah, there's a kind of dancing scene which goes a kind of long, and we can see like the bride and groom dancing, Dilber is dancing, the parents are dancing. I wanted to invite people to like really get to know, or like to feel Uyghur bodies in the space, and be with them and be present with them. Because actually, and since what's happening in 2017, there's so much horror story coming out of the region. And as you mentioned, so many people disappearing into these camps, and so many people suffering, families has been torn away. And I myself cannot go back there for these reasons. So and also there's like this constant reports about how like every Uyghurs have like they have to work in this labor camps, and how many women were sterilized, like the percentage. There are like some statistics. Of course these are very important informations, but at the same time they dehumanizes Uyghurs actually. So the way I see music and dance in Nikah is also the way to invite audience members to see the human face, like the humanness of Uyghurs, and also to feel this human culture, and to get close to Uyghurs, and then through this gesture of being close and connecting with Uyghur culture, to eventually feel what is it to feel like as to be an Uyghur in this very extreme conditions.
Yeah, and I think that's important that you use music, because music and dance is in every single culture all over the world. You know, that's something that we can communicate with. And like it said, like music is a universal language, you know, and like you can feel the emotion of the performers and the people through the music. And in this film, like it's, I think you and your sound designers and the composers did an extremely good job with, as you said, you use the music not to manipulate the audience, but to like invite us into understanding who these people are, who Dilber is, you know, like this is how we really get to know who she is, because you get the sense that she's always on guard, not only because the Uyghur people are being monitored by the CCP. Like there's these scenes that you interject where the we're seeing everything that's happening through a phone, you know, like because so much of our life now is our phones, you know, like you're recording everything, shooting reels for Instagram, you know, like video chatting with your friends. So much of our life is through the phone now, and you have those scenes, but then there's scenes where like you add the little icons to show that there some of it is surveillance footage. And I think the way how you did that is so brilliant, because again, like the music and the dance is how Dilber escapes. But it's a way for her to escape not only from being monitored by the CCP, but also being monitored by her family, by the people in the neighborhood, you know? Because as we said, like for young women, when you reach a certain age, they're always watching you to see, or not only are you getting dating, but to see who you're going around with. Do you have a boyfriend? Then they can go and tell the parents, you know. And I found that again, an experience back home in Barbados. My grandmother, people used to be in my grandmother would tell me things, and I'm like, how did you even know that I went this place? Oh yeah, this person so and so told me, you know. So like that's Dilber, you know, she's being constantly monitored. And she's being also monitored because as a young Muslim woman, you know, she's expected to adhere to certain standards, you know, like there's a scene where she's coming from the market and there's this sign. We don't really get a close-up shot of it, but like the text is big enough that we can understand. It says where it's like 10 forbidden forms of dress, you know, and like it shows like she's like, I just want to be me. And I think that's great. So talk about the monitoring, you know, in the film, about the idea and the concept and the reality of young women being always constantly watched, no matter where we go.
Yeah. I mean that's something that I think Uyghur people have been living through. As you said, they have been monitored not only by the CCP, not only by the Chinese government, but also by the community, and also very especially Uyghur women, actually, women who's living there. They're like under like so much pressure and so much monitoring, as you said. That was like really something which is, I mean, reflecting Uyghur life, and then how Uyghurs has been dealing with these kind of like different layered monitoring that they have been living through. So I think I'm also like very interested in like personal agency. So I'm also interested in like how people will try to find their personal agency, especially under these like multi-layered monitoring. So what you're saying, that what you saw in the film, thank you for telling me how you felt about the dance scenes. And it's really like tiny spaces that these people try to, you know, like find their own agencies, to find their space, to be with themselves. And that's something that interests me tremendously. I think it's really important for people like me, and for people like Dilber, to really try to find that kind of like tiny line of like agency, to find that space. And because that's really hard to find, actually, because you have been constantly surveilled by these systems.
Yeah, like you're being constantly on edge is like bad for your mental health, but it's also your physical health, you know. There's and I want us to talk a bit about the performance of the actress Guzalnur Uchqun. Like she's happy, you know, when Rena gets married, but there's these scenes where she just looks exhausted, you know, where she has to put on this face, this facade of like, I'm happy my sister's getting married, but it's just, again, like she's also being watched, and like that starts to take a toll on her. And it's in the moments where between the moments she's with her family and the moments when she's by herself that she just looks weary, you know, she just looks like she doesn't really have a lot of energy. And then there's again the scenes where she's with the men in the family, where it's her father and the men in the community, like the imam, and like she always has to be again on guard there, you know, make sure she moves correctly, you know, she's serving tea, you know, she has to make sure she does it properly, you know, modestly. And so she's not allowed to really relax, and that takes a toll on her. Can you talk about that for a bit?
Yeah, I mean, that's also like very much from my own experience being around these men, especially. I mean, in women, like if you're surrounded by women, it's a little bit different story, but surrounded by in the society, in the public eyes, you have to like always behave or like be in a certain way, in certain posture, because if you behave a little bit differently, or like if you want to relax, you know, like if you want to be yourself, it's always like criticized or like picked up immediately, because you'll be labeled as someone weird or someone doesn't fit in. So what Dilber is trying to do, which is like very it's very similar to a lot of Uyghur women, or maybe in other women living in kind of like traditional societies. They want to just be part of that society, you know, like they just want to like let them alone, just be normal, because they're already like regarded as a little bit abnormal because they're not married at 27 years old. So what she's trying to do, which is very common, which I did as well, you know, like to behave myself, you know, like to fit in, just don't attract too much attention on me because I'm already labeled as something different. While we were developing the film, like there was some kind of criticism when we were trying to get money to shoot the film, is like, oh, this is another Muslim woman's story, and she's not active enough, you know, like she's not like challenging the patriarchy. I'm like, it's not. I mean, you don't impose your Western feminism on me, because it's not how things works there. People, you know, like trying to, you know, like hold on to things and trying to fit in is their challenge. I mean, that's their struggle. So that's also like, I mean, honorable, and also something like really worth talking about. Like why these women, they just want to be like fit in, like trying to be in a normal way. And I mean, it's not possible for these women to challenge the patriarchal there, because it's like so different than what is in Western society. So that was also kind of interesting for me working on this film with my co-director and also our producing team, to really make sure that we don't fall into this kind of Western gaze of like how feminism should work in this different societies.
Yeah, like so many Western women, particularly white women, they don't understand that they want everything to be this big action, you know, like rah, 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 protest, protest. But then still at the end of the day, looking at what happened in the most recent election, like they're the ones who vote overwhelmingly for bigotry and oppression of other people, you know, and it's just like, but they don't consider just like Uyghur women are happy in their culture, you know, like Muslim women are happy in their culture. They just want, but they also just want to be themselves, you know, like that's just it. That's what Dilber is. She's just trying to be herself. You know, she loves her culture, she loves her people, she loves her language, the religion, you know, she loves the country, and like she loves the traditions, but she just also just wants to be like left alone, you know, and like they don't understand that. They want things to be on their term, their idea of feminism, you know, because they'll say, oh, like true feminism is being able to dress however you want. Okay, so a woman choosing to be hijabi is her expressing feminism. You know, that is her choosing. That's her choice. And they don't understand it, but they think it has to be on their idea of feminism, you know, like wearing revealing clothing. And like wearing revealing clothing doesn't protect you from harassment. You know, it doesn't protect you from the patriarchy. From the patriarchy, the problem is patriarchy. It doesn't matter how a woman dresses. You know, it doesn't matter her religion, because patriarchy is in every facet of society globally. But they don't like to see that, you know, so it has to be on their terms. And just thinking about this is just like, I'm like, I wish we had more time because there's so much I want to talk about that. But talk about working with your co-directors, Bastien Ehouzan.
Ehouzan, yeah.
Ehouzan and your lead actress, Guzalnur, because I love her. I love her performance. It's just so subtle. It's just so just like the way she carries her weariness, and she's just like, I just want to be, just let me be alone. Talk to me about working with the two of them and developing this film, because it wasn't filmed in Xinjiang. Where did you film it?
So Bastien was actually the first person that I met when I had this idea. At that time, I met him as the producer of this film. So he with a friend, we developed this idea, and then we wrote down this first script, and then we sent out to some different production companies, and Bastien was the first one to respond positively, to receive us and then to talk to us. So it was around 2016 that I met him, and we tried to, you know, like at that time the political oppression, like the pressure, was not in the script. So I was really focused on this social pressure on women. We tried to raise funding to be able to shot this film, and especially we want to do it in the region. So we tried so many different ways, and we also tried to develop this script, and then we worked with different script doctors or screenwriters, and it took a lot of time. And around 2017, things started to shift, and then the political storyline, we decided that the political storyline should be in the film as well. And also we understood that it was not possible to be in the region and then to shot there. So and also we were still having some difficulty raising fundings, and we decided at the end that we need to, you know, join forces, and then Bastien joined the directing team. It was kind of interesting, and also at the same time challenging to work with him. Of course, he's from the film world, but he's not from Uyghur community, so it's like constant conversation, dialogue, and to trying to, you know, like find a balance in different things or different parts of the knowledge that we brought into the project. So I think that's why the project is really, you know, like it's very much already debated inside, you know, like we try to work the best out of the script. So it was kind of challenging process, but I'm glad that Bastien was there, and then we managed to work this through. And working with Guzalnur, it was also very I feel like we were like really lucky, because casting in the Uyghur diaspora is like a nightmare. It's I mean, just to be clear, there's no professional actors in the film. All of them are mostly first time acting, including Guzalnur. But Guzalnur, I got really lucky because she is an acrobat artist, and she had experience with like being on stage, you know, like she's impressive, and she have been performing since the young age, so she knew how to, you know, like perform, and we also had to, you know, like do a lot of rehearsals with her and try to, you know, like really work this character with her. And she was brilliant, and then she also had this very strong work ethics. She would maybe because of her trainings, she would never say she's tired. She will be always ready, you know, like she had this like very, very strong character, also like dealing with this harsh environment. And about where it was shot in Central Asia, somewhere in Central Asia. I'm not saying where exactly because of the security concerns. we also worked with a local crew there, and they asked explicitly not to include their names. If you look at the credits, there's the whole bunch of names are missing. So out of the security for these people, yeah, I cannot say where it was, but we also like decided that the Uyghur region should be represented in the film with images. So there are phone images that you can see are actual images from the region, from Bolja. And I collected some tourist materials from some people who went there around 2017 and 2018. And some of them are YouTube archives, and I used them. We used them in a font format. That's our way of, like reclaiming the region, reclaiming the streets that we were not allowed to go back and do this, make this film.
And that's sad, that not only that the people who helped you on the film can't be credited as they should be, but also because I think you guys did an amazing job. And Guzalnur not having any prior acting experience is really amazing, because I think she did a fantastic job in this film, and I think you did a fantastic job, Miki. And I love it. And the way it ends, I'm not gonna spoil the ending, but the way it ends, I was just like, no, no. So it really does show again that you bring home the emotional, I guess you could say, like, the emotional, I don't want to the word keep coming to my mind is emotional terrorism that is that Uyghur was being subjected to this CP, because like people's lives are being snatched away, their families are being snatched away. And in all of these beautiful things about Dilber, like, you still have to, you reminding us this is still the reality of the Uyghur people, So I thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for making this film. And I hope as many people as possible see, because you're bringing to light the stories of people that aren't really paid attention to in Western media. So I think that's important as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your kind words and then your emotions, and thank you very much.
No, thank you. And I hope I get to meet you one day, because I actually have a question to ask you about your research on this, on like CCP using of music and tradition as kind of like a messaging, because there's an actress that I only learned is Uyghur recently. I was like, aha. Okay.